Okay, let's get started. Okay, obviously, I think all of us here, I keep saying this, there's a lot of updates to get through. Just an FYI, a lot of the language updates, we kind of just, if you want to know the latest language support, you can go to the Google support pages to look at that. We're leaving those out just for time constraints. Okay, a few updates to NotebookLM this month. One of them is the new learning guide built into NotebookLM. So actually, there's a couple of different learning tools in Gemini and NotebookLM now. The learning guide in NotebookLM is obviously grounded in your sources. What you do, you actually go to, you customize or configure the chat and ask it to be a learning guide, and it will walk you through your sources essentially as a tutor. I mean, obviously this is great for students, but it's great for professional learning as well. In another extension to NotebookLM is the fact that video overviews are now available to users of all ages. So NotebookLM recently was opened up for access to users of all ages, so you can assign these to students, of course, but now the video overviews have been opened up to students as well. It's a safe experience because obviously it's built inside of NotebookLM. Just to be aware, it depends on the sources that you put in there, of course. Another update, I'm not sure if we have it listed or not, but NotebookLM video overviews are now using Nano Banana as well for image generation. If it hasn't launched yet, it will be launched soon. Bogdan's going to do a deeper dive talking about Gemini, so I think he'll talk about a bit more of that across some of the other apps later. Probably have seen this over the last couple of weeks, a couple of big updates, and I think probably get these out of order, but in addition to, so gems are shareable, but they're also available to assign in Google Classroom. So custom gems and NotebookLM can both now be assigned within Google Classroom. So when you go to Google Classroom, you can add a gem, you can create a new NotebookLM, excuse me, based upon your sources in the Google Classroom. So specific to that Google Classroom, you can have a NotebookLM assistant. That's all built inside of Google Classroom without having to go anywhere. Quick update with Gemini and Read Along. I think Read Along gets overlooked. So Read Along is the reading tutor app built inside of Google Classroom. Previously, it was really designed for K-2 sort of age groups around those sort of levels. But now what you can do, there's a couple of additional ways to generate your own content. You can upload your own content, but now you can generate stories with Gemini inside of Read Along. That opens it up for Read Along to be applicable for older ages as well. Maybe you have a science document or some kind of project going on you want to generate a story for. You can use Gemini for that. So it's all built inside of Read Along, and it tracks progress, and the teacher obviously gets the learning analytics from that as well. Okay, hopefully I don't need just yet. Probably not the one to talk about this release. AI-powered makeup in Google Meet, or maybe I should be using this. Soften out that skin. So now it's essentially, it's a filter, of course, to apply makeup in Google Meet. I will not say any more than that. Okay, there is a promotion ongoing at the moment. So previously, the Gemini features for Google Vids, so the advanced generative features in Google Vids, so creating videos from slides and so on, were restricted to Gemini licenses. Now there's a limited period where those features will be accessible to everybody on Education Plus. I know most schools here have Education Plus, so most people here would be impacted by this. So the generative AI features for Google Vids are now available to everybody for a limited time. I forget what the period is. I think they said up to 12 months, but I'm not really sure what the timeline is on that. Okay, these are big updates. I always get excited by the Google Sheets Gemini updates, and there's a couple of them. The first one is Gemini will now analyze data across multiple tables in the same tab. So this is really important. You can analyze data using Gemini and Google Sheets across multiple tables, but it still has to be within the same tab. Hopefully, I'm assuming this will expand to multiple tabs in the future. Nevertheless, if you have all of your tables in one tab and want to analyze data across all of them, you can. So it's definitely a big, powerful upgrade there. Flashcards. So again, one of the learning updates inside of Gemini is flashcards. Just a quick announcement that they're available to users of all ages. So students do get a more restricted view of Gemini, or a more restricted version of Gemini, but flashcards, Canvas, the learning tutor are some of the things that students do get access to. Next one for Google Sheets, multi-step tasks. I think, and again, just picking up on the one I mentioned a moment ago, I think we're a little bit possibly disappointed with Gemini and Google Sheets a while ago. It's getting a lot of these more powerful upgrades, allowing these multi-step tasks. So you can ask things about create a formula and apply a filter or apply formatting. So you can do multiple things in one prompt on your data. So that's all within Gemini. Again, you would need a Google AI license for that, but a lot of updates to Gemini and Google Sheets. Some of these, so actually a lot of these features are now being applied across the mobile apps as well. So there's increasing Gemini functionality on mobile. One of the things you may see is the summarizing shared files in Google Chat. So rather than having to open the file, obviously on mobile it's quite hard to see an entire file, you can have it summarized in line in your Google Chat if somebody mentions a file. Help Me Schedule is another, we saw a while ago, how easy it is to include your meeting schedule inside of your email now. It's a little meeting schedule button. But there's a new, using Gemini, it will help with a lot of that back and forth in terms of scheduling now as well. So Help Me Schedule is inside of Gmail, again for users with that Google AI or that Gemini license. And it just helps with scheduling meetings. So a couple of big improvements this year to that inside of Gmail. The AI function, actually just a quick show of hands or just a quick emoji. Is anybody using the AI function inside of Google Sheets? Again, this does need a Google AI license. And it says AI Ultra, but actually just a regular Google AI license for this one. Bogdan, you're going to be looking at this, so I won't steal your thunder on this. Really good, because now you can bring in live data, so live search results, into Google Sheets using the AI function. So you can generate text, and you can bring in search results as well. Now, this really is a US-only announcement, I believe. The Gemini Assistant, Gemini in Chrome AI Browsing Assistant, I believe is only available in the US at the moment. Certainly, I haven't had access to it, and it looked like it was only a US release, but it will be coming for all users over the coming months. So just something to be aware of. That will be Gemini built into Chrome. So just something to be aware of. Students will have access to Gemini inside of Chrome at some point. So really just flagging that. Bogdan's doing a deep dive again about Gemini in a few minutes. Very, very quickly, Nano Banana is Google's or Gemini's image creation editing model. That same image generation tool is now available in Google Slides and Vids as well, basically just upgrading the image generation. This is an important one because a lot of schools are talking about, well, they're not using Google Classroom, but they are using third-party LMS. The Learning Tools interoperability allows schools to use elements of Google within external third-party LMS. For example, Canvas or perhaps Schoology. So now GEMS are now part of LTI, so they can be assigned as activities within Schoology, for example, and presumably more LMS as this support rolls out. So it is possible to use a lot of elements of Google within those external LMS. For example, Toddle allows you to bring in certain documents. I don't know what Toddle's future support for this will be, but it gives you an idea. It's not restricted just to Classroom for that use of Gemini. Update to Gemini in Google Vids is taking your Google Slides presentation, just making a video from a Google Slides presentation. So an example for this would be you have an existing slide deck. You want to create an animated video on that slide deck. You can also then create the voiceover as well. It will generate a transcript and it will create a voiceover all in one as well. It's a very easy way to take a slide deck, package it up as an animation, and then send it out, or an animated deck with a voiceover, and then you can share that out. Another update to Gemini and Sheets. Bogdan's going to be talking a lot about Gemini, so again, I'll skip over that one. Google chat messages. So this integration is, if you have a Gemini license, a Google AI license, you can refine your chat messages in the same way that you would with your Gmail messages. So again, the help me write basically is the help me write functionality, the little button there. You can refine your message. So you can use it to help you write, refine your message, compose, and so on. All built into chat messages in the same way it is Gmail. Okay, this was just the referring to Gemini and Chrome. We just talked about that. You can, yeah, just flagging this, you can pre-configure access, but as a global rollout hasn't been announced yet, we'll wait to see when it rolls out beyond the US. Okay, this is for everybody, gems sharing. So custom gems are your custom AI assistants that you can build inside of Gemini, of course. Now you can share these gems. People have been asking this for over a year. I remember since gems were launched 18 months ago, people have been asking, well, how can I share them? Well, now you can. A couple of things. Peter and I worked through a couple of troubleshooting things on this. A couple of things that we noticed. You can turn off sharing for different groups or OUs. If sharing is turned off, then existing gems still exist inside a Google Drive of the users, but they won't be able to share future gems. Something we noticed is when the sharing is turned off, or rather, let's do this. When gem sharing is turned on, when you share a gem, it creates a gem in a, I think it's called Gemini Gems folder inside of Google Drive. And that's how the sharing is managed via Google Drive. When sharing is turned off, it will not create those gems inside of Google Drive. That's basically how it's working. Peter, is there anything I'm missing there? Because we were troubleshooting this a few days ago, weren't we?
I think the only other thing to add, and I think you've done a really good summary already, is if you've shared gems already and then you turn that setting off for users, those pre-existing gems will still exist in the Google Drive and will still be shared. So there's a few nuances to this, but yeah, good there is admin control now for us.
And I might add one more troubleshooting part. If your custom gems have files attached in the knowledge base, when you share the gems, it shares only the gem and not the files. And unlike all of the other Google Drive sharing interfaces, so if you want to, for example, attach a file to your Gmail or to a doc, you will get a prompt saying whoever you want to give access to this file doesn't have access to it. That's not the case for gems. So you have to manually go in the gems folder and share that file with the audience. Otherwise, they will not be able to access them.
Okay, so just is it okay if I just interject real quickly and ask clarifying questions and taking notes for our schools? So when you share a gem, we have admin controls so you can eliminate the sharing of gems for particular OUs, but also some heads up an education piece that if you share a gem, the knowledge will not be shared if it's an attachment.
It's not shared automatically, yes. So you would need to manually change the sharing settings for those files. It will give you a warning, so it does tell you that, but unlike the other integrations where you can just click on a button and change the sharing on that step, here it will not work in that way.
So if you upload a PDF and you share it as part of the knowledge, do you have to manually select that when you press share? Is that how it works?
You would need to go to the Drive folder and change the settings from there.
Okay, so the file cannot live on your desktop. It has to live in Google Drive to be shared.
Oh, sorry, just to correct that. So when you share the gem, it does add the file into the folder. This is more like a glitch, and I hope that they will fix it. Okay. So the file is added to the folder. It will live in the same folder with the gem, just that it doesn't update the sharing settings. But as I said, this is more like a glitch, and I hope that will be fixed soon.
Gotcha, thank you.
I do wonder if this is an intentional security designed by Google to make sure we're not accidentally sharing files attached and being unaware of that, to make an extra step there just to make sure people are certain they want to share that additional data. So it'd be good to ask Google about this and get clarification.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it's the same with a site. If you embed a file on a site, you get a
Absolutely.
warning and you can change. So yeah. Okay, sorry for jumping in.
Thanks, Bogdan. Yeah, good clarification. Tim, have you got a quick question, Tim, on that?
This is more of a comment. I also noticed that if somebody shared the gem with you, you won't see it in the sidebar at all. You have to open it first, and then it shows, like, run a prompt through it, and then it shows up in the sidebar, and then you can pin it if you need to. So that was something that was a little tricky. But I also have a request, and this is not so much with gems, but with Gemini in general. I don't know if you guys can help out. One of the ways that students and teachers are supposed to be citing their work with AI is by linking to the chat, which this kind of plays into the sharing thing, but there's no way in Google Gemini to link to a chat that you've had. And so I was wondering if you could work with your Google contacts and if people on this call could submit feedback about that, because we're trying to show or request that our teachers use Gemini with their students if they're going to use AI tools, but then they can't follow the standard citation rules but for linking to a chat. Sorry, I'm a little sick. So that would be really helpful if you guys are able to, work with your contacts, because sharing a chat, I know there's probably some security things there or whatever, but now that gems are shared, I'm hoping that they can do something similar with regular chats, because that would really help us out on the education side.
Cool, thanks, Tim. Yeah, we'll maybe Bogdan, you and I can come back to that in a bit. Yeah, good point. Okay, just moving on. I want to give Bogdan plenty of time to go through his sharing in a moment. Google Forms has a quick, nice little update, again, with the Google AI license. So again, a lot of these updates now are about Gemini and Google AI. We've mentioned this before. A lot of these updates, getting proactive summaries from text responses in Forms. So it does a nice, Google Forms now will do a nice sort of like overview of responses, but also of the text responses as well. Rather than having to go through and read them all, you can see a nice overview of those responses. Again, under 18 users also received access to quizzes. So students can create quizzes. They have access to flashcards, quizzes, Canvas, and the learning, I forgot what it's called, learning guide, learning partner as well, all inside of Gemini. Minor, just a UI update. You'll begin to see your logo, the school logo, appear. The same one that you see across Google Drive will begin to appear inside of the Gemini app as well. Okay, so Google Keep and Google Tasks are two sort of apps. Google Keep's more of a note-taking app. Google Tasks is more obviously for creating task lists. The Google Keep reminders are now saved to Google Tasks. So it's really just combining that functionality together. There's a bit of overlap. You could have created them separately before. Now they're just combining those together. So Keep reminders will sit inside of Tasks and then sync to Calendar as well. Okay, big upgrade to Google Vids for those YouTube stars out there or anybody doing TikTok content. You can now create vertical and square videos inside of Google Vids. So you were restricted before. Now you're not. You've got different formats to be able to create your Google Vids if you're creating mobile content, for example. Okay, big one, Jason, because I know you obviously are in Hong Kong and everybody else in Hong Kong. We were just chatting about this. Google Meet live captions are expanding to Cantonese. For that, you would need a Google Plus license. And I believe we checked, Jay, we were talking about this. The viewer does not. So just the host of the meeting needs a Plus license and the viewer can enable Cantonese live captions. Another Google Meet update. This is actually quite useful, enabling timers in Meet. So if you set aside breakout rooms or a discussion piece, you can set a timer on that and everybody can see the timer ticking down. Don't know how I feel about this, but stickers are coming to Google Chat. Peter, we were just talking about this. Is it possible to turn these off? Because I'm sure people are going to ask this.
Unfortunately not. No, I just was checking up on that, and no admin control at this point in time. But I would expect there to be ones. We already have controls for controlling emojis in chat. So yeah, hopefully Google will add this as well.
It's ripe for it's ripe for abuse in general, I think, Dan. I'm sure. Google Chat apps works, so I don't think that many schools are using chat apps, but there's just a couple of improvements to locating those and integrations and actions within inside of chat apps. So for example, typically, polls are a good example, but also third-party connections to maybe a CRM, like Salesforce, for example, built inside of chat would be a chat app. Ransomware detection, file restoration for Google Drive. Now, Nate, I was in Korea last week at the Google office. Nate, I think you're on the call. Peter, would you mind, Peter or Charlie, would you mind to just quickly go over this one? But Nate, I know Nate has a question about this.
Yeah, sure. So in our security audits, Drive for Desktop is always something we recommend turning off, and that recommendation still stands. But if you are using Drive for Desktop, you've got extra assurance now, extra protection against ransomware. So essentially, Google have a custom-trained AI model looking out for ransomware activity on your device. If it detects that activity, it will stop syncing, and it gives you a new page you can go into to easily restore your files to previous versions if they were encrypted by ransomware.
Nate, over to you. Sorry, Peter.
Oh, no, yeah, please carry on. Yeah, Nate, I'd love to hear your question.
Yeah, thank you. So there was this conception, and I don't know if it was false. This idea that if you had Google Desktop enabled, that it wouldn't sync encrypted files, so that it wouldn't then upload and overwrite the version on the cloud. Was that a misconception, and that in the past it would have done that, and now it detects that, or is this to prevent against other ransomware things like renaming files anonymous, the random names and things like that, or deletions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I'm not sure what protections Google Drive for Desktop had previously for this. I don't know if Charlie, you've got any extra information on this, but I believe it would have still synced those files. But yeah, Charlie, do you have any extra information on this one?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it would have synced files still, and this is now a level of protection that would prevent that ransomware files going to the cloud.
And even previously, you could have still restored from a previous version of that file, which would have still been in Google Drive. This is essentially making that restoration simpler process for the user, but also, yeah, preventing the syncing of those files.
Okay,
well, thanks for the question, Nate.
Yeah, thanks, Nate.
Ransomware is one of the most
Much preferred hearing Peter's voice to explain that one, not the video. Chat spaces are getting a new role. So the new role is going to be the owner role of a chat space. And at the same time, so the owner role will be able to delete chat spaces. That will downgrade the role of the manager role. That will downgrade the permissions of the manager role a little bit as well. So the owner role will be able to control the deletion of a space. The manager will be able to control all other permissions. If you're rolling out, if obviously you're using chat spaces, probably mostly are, that extra permission is now rolled out as well, or that extra role. In case you're counting, you can now configure an increase of 10 more conditional notifications per Google Sheet. So if you have conditional notifications, so conditional notification would be, once we receive over 10 registrations for an event, just for example, get a notification about that, you can increase the number of conditional notifications you have set up. This is really valuable if you're doing perhaps managing purchasing through Google Sheets or any kind of like finance in Google Sheets. Really useful features those are. Reporting rules are now activity rules. Actually, Peter, can I turn this one over to you?
Yeah, sure. So previously, if you're on a free edition, so if you're using the fundamentals edition of Google Workspace, you would have reporting rules. In Education Plus, you've got activity rules, which are a bit more powerful. So essentially just Google are combining these into a single rule type. Education Plus still enables certain features here, but there's just now consolidated reporting activity rules rather than 2 different types. So a bit simpler to manage now, essentially.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to skip that mobile update. Quick update to Drive sharing permissions. You'll no longer be able to restrict access to specific files within a shared folder. So it's just a change of how Google's managing shared drive permissions. So you're able to share, but not restrict within a shared drive. Peter, again, I'm just thinking, what's the use case here? I'm just trying to think what we're losing here.
So what this update does enable you to do, though, so let's say you've shared a folder with a bunch of users, but within that folder, you've got another folder which you don't want to give everyone access to. So there's now a limited access option you can put on that folder, which will grey that folder out, and only the people specifically shared on that folder would be able to access it. So it's a way of stopping the inherited rights propagating down through your file structure and limiting that access. Hope that makes sense. It took me a few times to read this update a while ago to actually make sense of it. Google could have used a much clearer language in this one, I think.
Thank you, Peter. And that is it.
Found this information useful? We regularly share content on how to leverage Google's tools for education. Hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe for more. Ready to empower your students and teachers with the full suite of Google for Education tools? Learn more about Education Plus and other licenses by clicking the link below to speak with a licensing expert, like me.